in making the best of basics. But really, the Crisis Preparedness Handbook, I do hope you'll pick up a copy from us. It is $19.95 or $19.99 with free shipping, and some of these things will stick, and then you'll take the time to read them. But the book is not an extensive overview with 500 pages of information or 1,000 pages of information about prepping or about survival and preparedness, and so. But I think it hit me well because of its simplisticness, its basicness, and also more advanced. One of the chapters that I really enjoyed, let me go to the chapter right now, is your food storage plan and how to have a food storage plan. And I'm not proficient on perfect food storage. I have food storage. Obviously, I could do much better. I've prepared, like I've said earlier, a little bit of preparation in food. I have food storage that I got from the Bishop Storehouse that are in Mo City at they're called LDS Bishop Storehouses. You can find them wherever, in your local, in your, hopefully within 50 to 100 miles there's one. But they sell food storage. So I have food storage that's dry, beans, rice. What else do we have? We have more than just beans and rice, but I'll remember some of it right now. But we have, the basics that just comes, beans, rice, grain, different kinds of rices, different kinds of beans. But we have some food storage there and dry food storage. We also have some more pre-packed. And so I like in his book, in Crisis Preparedness, that he goes into extensive detail of having them all, having all the genres of it, whether it be, and the information in the book is a tad outdated. Obviously, Jack passed away and his wife took on the legacy for him, and she hasn't updated it. I'd love to have the book updated one day. It doesn't really mention Google, or it mentions a little bit about the Internet, but not extensively about enough about the Internet and the accessibility. It touches on it. It happened. He talks about 9/11, I'm glad he put that in the book. I think it helps everybody to get better prepared. But that's the one thing is there's a lot of new methods coming out, a lot of new information coming out about prepping, and maybe that information just isn't in here in the book. But at least what I really liked about the chapter, it's called Your Food Storage Plan. I apologize, I repeated that, is that it goes into not only making your own, not only making your own food. I mean, you've got the basic plan to the advanced plan. You can make your own food, and he talks about grain mills and making your own grain and grinding your own grain and what kind of grinders to have and what equipment to have, to the advantages of obviously this. I like it because he's on the outside. There's the advantages and disadvantages of all this. That takes a lot of work and a lot of equipment. And then there's also, I believe, there's obviously freeze-dried food, but there's also another one that I really liked he brought up called there's freeze-dried and dehydrating your food. And that takes a lot of work. Obviously, freeze-drying can take a lot of work unless you buy either dehydrated or freeze-dried food from Mountain House or Wise Food Storage. But he touched up on the disadvantages. I really liked hearing the advantages and disadvantages because a lot of people may get your food storage. You may have food storage and you may have never thought of the disadvantages of having that type of food storage. And so I think being aware of what the advantages and disadvantages are helps you go, okay, let me weigh my options. Let me get a little bit of maybe dehydrated food or freeze-dried food because that's more prepped and I don't have to do anything in order to prep it. There's a lot of companies now that do freeze-dried food or dehydrated food. They're all over the place that I think will help you. If you don't want to be able to prep, like I said, this book talks about if you're making your own to if you want to just get it in a bag. And obviously it doesn't have a lot of the newer companies that have come out recently in the last 5 years, but it touches up on, like freeze-dried foods, how long they last and everything. I just I just got deep that we should probably have a commercial break, and I missed the commercial break. It's now 34 after, so we are going to jump to a commercial break. I'm going to talk about this book a little bit more and jump into the question that was on Facebook. And anybody can call. Our number is 347-326-9604. I'll talk to you after the break. This is the Berkey guy from the Berkey Show. Hey, this is Jeff, the Berkey guy, here coming up to the last half of the show. I'm going to have to get some new bumper music. I want to get my own, but I appreciate all that Sharon's doing on the bumper music. I need to get my own song. But anyway, we were talking about Crisis Preparedness Handbook by Jack Spigarelli. We were talking about the water, not only the water chapter, but we were talking about the food storage plan chapter. Just the information in here, there's a lot of charts, but I wanted to get back into the book. A lot of the information in here is invaluable. Teaches you how to prepare, whether it be flour, pasta, and other foods. Not only that, how to medicines. A lot of people are worried about what are they going to do with medicines, and he touches up on that just a little bit. But I wanted to go into also the emergency water supply chapter, and there's not too much terribly new. The chapter is kind of small. I got through that one so quick, I was kind of like, bummer, there's not more. It's only about 10 pages long. And he touches up on a few water filters to have. Obviously, he didn't know about Berkey, so he doesn't have Berkey water filters in there. But he does talk about boiling your water, chlorine, pre-treating your water, how much water to have. Although we talked about that last week's show, that we need about 1 to 2 gallons per person per day. I did hear people have lived on less than that, but at least having 1 to 2 gallons a day in storage. If you're gonna try to survive for 30 days, and you'd want to have 30 to 60 gallons per person. Usually people think of maybe more like up to 1 year. So you'd want to have, most likely with a family of 4 or 5, you want to have 5 to 7, if not more, 55-gallon drums stored, and be not only have the water, but be turning it over, be replenishing it every year. And he explains about how to filter it, different filters and stuff like that, and just being smart with your water preps, because your food is tied to your water also, or everything's tied to water. I think that that's one thing in prepping that may not be talked about. And the chapter 11 is really, really short. But obviously Jack's no longer with us, so it may not be updated. But at least there's some basic information, and that will help you. And going on to other parts of the book, he talks about gardening and how to raise and treat your own gardens, and how to find your own, find your own food, whether it be fishing or trapping or hunting. He even goes into like what kind of guns and pistols and rifles you should own for these kind of survival situations. I won't go into more detail, but finishing off the book and maybe the last few chapters of it, it talks about how to preserve food. I really liked the chapter on home canning. Even though I grew up canning, my mother did it all the time. I don't know if it's really done a lot now. I'm not sure. It's been stopped, obviously, by most people, but I think a lot of people have gone to the pre-packed mountain house type of food storage. But canning is important. It's an important skill to know about, and he goes into detail about that. And maybe just finishing off the book, obviously companies change. He does have a little section at the end of the book about companies that are no longer in business. A lot of them are, not all, but a lot of them aren't just around anymore because things happened after 9/11. After 9/11 it picked up a little bit, but since then there haven't been a lot of these companies either gone out of business or gone and done other projects, or maybe they were just small mom and pops. So, but he does at the end, the last few chapters go into mental medical and dental, and how to, what to have on storage. And also, I really liked how he got back into the EEK. I'll end with that on the EEK note, because I think the EEK, the bug out bag, whatever you want to call it, the survival bag, your survival kit, something like that. I've heard people call it your 72-hour kit. You've got Band-Aids, you've got, you might have, you've got a little bit of food, you've got some food storage. I would even say in your 72-hour kit, you should have a Sport Berkey water bottle or a Go Berkey kit. Those are perfect for dipping in the streams and lakes. And a lot of people, I know there's a gentleman who, a lot of people might not have that in their storage, but a lot of people should have some type of water purification tablets or something in there. A Sport Berkey would be perfect. Now, I was talking with a gentleman also who was buying he's buying the Sport Berkeys in bulk, and he's going to use them in some of the bug-out preparedness survival kits that he was going to sell across the nation. And so I'm glad that he was able to reach us, and he's going to, he's doing that right now, and those kits are going out to some of his customers. But all in all, in relation to the Crisis Preparedness book, I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Obviously, it has its setbacks with it's 8 years old. The setbacks are it's 8 years old. Jack's no longer with us, so it hasn't been updated with new information, with the growing information. It doesn't talk about our new economic crisis. I think there's plenty of information out there in books and in Making the Best of Basics to hit on that. But overall, the topics it touches on, I'm glad that we not only we carry it, but I've been able to read it. And I think all of you should have a copy yourselves and also read it. Not just have a copy. I mean, I want people to read the books and to become more familiar with it, whether it be the magazine we talked about at the beginning, because it is too, and taking the information and making skills into it and trying it out. And obviously we can't try everything. We can only get to what we can. We don't have but 24 hours in a day. So we do what we can to help and get to these preps. So I hope my review, I know it hasn't been extensive. I hope I touched on a few things, maybe giving you a little bit of information about the book. But I do want to go and touch up on that other question that was on Facebook before the show. Before we run out of time, we've got about 15 more minutes. But talk a little about Berkey's Take Your Calls. If you'd like to call in, more than welcome to call in, or just write something in the chat room, and I will do my best before the end of the show to talk about it. So, anywho, there was a gentleman on Facebook that, changing gears, his name is Charles. I won't give out his last name, but he's I would say, a really good listener in the sense of really positive critique of the show. Like I said, I have no professional career in this, so I am just doing my best here and trying to make it fun and exciting. So he critiqued me on a couple of weeks ago. We had a show, and he did a great job of critiquing me. He said, he wanted to see more, ad-libs type of stuff, or more, I had been reading off my site at the time some information about the Berkeys and the sizes, and sometimes it's hard to be proficient on every nook and cranny detail, but he gave me a good criticism to try and not sound like a robot, not sound like I'm reading off of something the whole time I'm here. But I wanted to read you something he wrote on Facebook in a note to me, and I wanted to touch upon this question that people have about water. He said another idea would be to touch on what one can use as an initial strainer filter when gathering water from surface sources. Surface sources would be like, gutters or streams or lakes, or just anything that might be contaminated, or from even your roof or rainwater. I've got a bulk package of cheap coffee filters. He doesn't drink coffee, he said, but to do for this. And he's also recommended clean T-shirts or socks.